Howdy everybody, David here, and today in this review we're going to take a look at Shadow of the Demon Lord. And this is a game that I've been requested by a lot of my viewers in the Twitch channel and on YouTube on what game this is, what type of game this is it worth getting into, yada yada yada, and yada yada yada. So here it is, here's my review on Shadow of the Demon Lord. And I'm going to do this review on this, everything taken into consideration. Mechanics, price, content, everything. So, Shadow of the Demon Lord, it is by Robert Schwab. He is one of the authors of Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. He's worked with numerous other authors, Monty Cook. He's worked with, pretty much all of the large game companies in the industry. He's been doing it for about 15 years now, so he's built a good reputation, so he wanted to put out Shadow of the Demon Lord. Well, it was a Kickstarter back in 2015, I believe the middle of 2015, and all of the goals and everything had quite a few stretch goals, and was actually really successful. I, at the time, did not invest in the Kickstarter. I do regret that now, but I was in numerous other Kickstarters at the time. I was in a Savage Worlds 6th Gun, Savage Worlds The Last Parsec, and a couple Numenera, the beginning box set, and then also the outer campaign books Kickstarter. So I had a lot of Kickstarters going on, and but I still kind of regret not getting into Shadow of the Demon Lord. So, Shadow of the Demon Lord, what is this game? And how I interpret this game is a very dark, gritty horror type of fantasy. This game kind of reminds me a lot of, say, Diablo 2. And, a lot of demons, a lot of devils, a lot of blood, a lot of disease, a lot of sickness, and just a lot of death. And I like that in a role-playing game. So that's what piqued my interest, and I wanted to, check out this Shadow of the Demon Lord, so I did. The core book, this is the core book you see in front of you. It is 272 pages, and it has everything all in one. It has your player mechanic, the rule mechanics. It has a plethora of character customization content. It has, your spells. It has a gazetteer of the world. It has everything that you need to play the game. It has a DM toolbox. It has all kinds of magic item creation. It has a ton of monsters. It has everything, and it plays really easy, guys. And Robert Schwab, he worked on Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. So Shadow of the Demon Lord is a very easy game to play. It's very new player friendly, and it resembles a lot of 5th Edition. And there are some main selling points of this game. One selling point is it only uses 2 dice. It uses a d20 and it uses d6s for damage. I like that. If you're an old school type of player, you'll love the tons and tons and tons of rollable tables that Shadow of the Demon Lord has. And Robert Schwab has not skimmed in that department, let me tell you. There are rollable tables for just about everything. And another great thing about this game is it is a very low numbers type of game. And what I mean by a low numbers type of game is, there's very low hit points for your characters. There's low attack bonuses, low damage bonuses, and it plays very fast. So low numbers helps with the playing fast aspect of a game. I like it. It's not like a bloated number system like as in a 3.5, a Pathfinder, or a D&D 4th Edition. Nothing like that. It's actually, in reality, the numbers are actually a lot lower than in D&D 5th Edition. I wouldn't say a whole ton lower, but the numbers are definitely lower than 5e, which is a good thing. So those are some of the basic, selling points of the game, but there are some major selling points as well. And there is a Boons and Banes system. Now, the Boons and Banes system works exactly like, and here's where the influence from Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition comes in. Boons and Banes works exactly like Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition Advantage and Disadvantage. However, I will say this about Shadow of the Demon Lord. I think that the Boon and Bane system is superior to the 5th edition advantage and disadvantage system. And not to take anything away from Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, I play the hell out of D&D 5th edition, and I have for about 4 years since the early public playtests during D&D Next. So I love D&D 5th edition, and I'm not taking anything away from this game, that game. But the Boons and Banes and Shadow of the Demon Lord work the same way, but in a different numerical aspect. So in D&D 5e, you roll the dice twice, and for advantage, you take the highest roll. It's very advantageous for a player. I mean, very advantageous to have that. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, disadvantage is very detrimental to a player, which I know that's what they want, and that's the mechanic. And I'm totally for that. I like that in D&D 5th edition. But in Shadow of the Demon Lord, I like Boons and Banes a little bit better. And Boons and Banes works exactly the way Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition works. You know, they cancel each other out, just like advantage and disadvantage. So you could have 4 boons and 3 banes. And you can get boons and banes from insanity. You can get it from corruption, which we'll talk about in a little bit. You can get it from blessings, from spells, from magic items, from features, all kinds of stuff. So they cancel each other out. So if you have 3 boons on your attack, then you would take a 6-sided and roll it 3 times, or roll 3 6-sideds at a time. And say you got a 4, a 5, and a 6. You would take the highest number, being the 6, and that would be your boon. So you don't take the 4, 5, 6 and add it up. You don't do that. You just take the highest roll, and then you add it to your attack roll. Beautiful. I like that. So there's a swing of 1 to 6 points, not 1 to 20 like in D&D 5th edition, which I really like that. And you know, the banes work the same way. If you roll a 4, 5, 6, you have 3 banes, you know, those are your rolls. You have a 6, and you would take that 6 and do a -6 on your roll. So it's not as detrimental as disadvantage would be, and it's not as advantageous as having full-on advantage. So that the Boons and Banes system is a very good selling point for Shadow of the Demon Lord. And a lot of my players actually, and I do a lot of Adventures League stuff too, they actually like the Boons and Banes and Shadow of the Demon Lord. So next thing I want to talk about is Insanity. You know, Insanity you have it in Cthulhu games, many other noir games, stuff like that. And Insanity is it's a mechanic here in Shadow of the Demon Lord. So you can become insane by seeing certain creatures, which is a great mechanic, off of monsters and other deeds and other, horrifying things that you would see. You know, dead bodies, etc., 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 could give you the possibility of having insanity, and your character would go insane over time. Then there's corruption. Corruption is a very, very good mechanic that I wish was in a lot of other games. Perfect example, you have a lot of players that are running around as neutral good characters and labeled as alignments. There are no really alignments in Shadow of the Demon Lord, but I'm just using that as an example here. So you figure, you know, in most other tabletop games, you have alignments, and you're running around and you're stealing from people, and you're neutral to, neutral good, which typically wouldn't happen. You're killing people for no reason. You're mugging them. You're robbing temples. You're, doing all kinds of devilish things. So that's where corruption comes into play in Shadow of the Demon Lord. So if you, mug Granny Gum Gums going across the street, and if you pickpocket her, that is you will have the possibility to gain a point of corruption. And once you, meet a certain threshold of corruption, then you will gain marks of darkness, which could be a demon coming after you, which could be a whole multitude of different things. And there's a whole beautiful, massive chart on marks of darkness that could happen to you. Really great. I like corruption because it kind of brings adventurers back into check. Even though this is a fantasy game, I get it. It's all make-believe anyway, but you could still have a realistic sense of them playing their character as they were the person behind that shield, or they were the character wearing that leather armor, pickpocketing Granny Gum-Gums and taking her cane from her as she, crosses the muddy street. So there's consequences to doing evil and devilish things like that. I really like it. Another selling point is the combat round. Now there's 3 parts to the combat round in Shadow of the Demon Lord. Most games do an initiative roll, and it's much, much, much different in this game. It has a fast turn, which you can either move or take an attack, but it gives you priority in the round because the fast part of the round goes first. So once everybody does their single action, then the slow part of the round happens, and folks that want to move and do an action, then they can go ahead and go during the slow turn. And then at the end of the turn, all of your potions take effect, any kind of ongoing damage, stuff like that. So really, it's a really cool new type of initiative that, and in fact, I really don't even consider it initiative. I mean, it's just, if you are already in your position that you want to fight in, you may go ahead and go in the fast turn, and you'll get to go first. But once you already go in the fast turn, when it comes to the slow turn, you cannot go. So you can still, like in every other tabletop game, you can only go one time during your turn. So, and then like I said, if you quaff your potion during the fast part of the turn, the heal doesn't actually take effect until the end of the turn. But in Shadow of the Demon Lord, you can get potions with injectors, and you can literally inject them, and it would be an instantaneous effect to you instead of waiting to the end of the round. So a huge portion of what I want to talk to you now about is probably the biggest thing besides Boons and Banes would be the massive, massive, massive character customization that you can do in Shadow of the Demon Lords. It is amazing the amount of time that has put, an effort for that matter, that has been put into creating this class structure that it has. Now there's 10 levels in Shadow of the Demon Lord for now. Supposedly, in the future, I'm sure there will probably be another core book that will go from level 11 to 20, but for now, as the game stands, it is a level 0 to 10, and at level 0, you choose your ancestry. And, believe it or not, between the core book, the companion book, and a ton of other supplements, there's probably, and I'm not joking here, there's probably 50 or 60 supplements out. And that includes adventures of every tier, poison pages, 50 to 60 page companion books. There's probably about 40 to 60 different supplements out. There's there's all kinds of condition cards. There are spell cards out, and the game is really well put together, and it's merchandised well, and there's good and bad to that, and I'll talk about that at the end of this review. Now, your ancestries are at level 0, okay? And your ancestry, there are 19 of them. So these are basically your race and your background kind of put together. And the way that I see this is, an ancestry is what you were before you had this hairball idea of becoming an adventurer in the lands of Shadow of the Demon Lord, which is, Earth. Because the lands are just totally corrupt, and the Demon Lord is the cause of that. We don't know if this is the Demon Lord. The Demon Lord is everything. The Demon Lord is disease, is sickness, in spirit. The Demon Lord is everything in this game. And, you have 19 ancestries to choose from. Everything from a shapeshifter to a revenant to a salamander, being like a fire type of humanoid. There is a clockwork construct. There is a fawn. You can be a pixie with almost permanent invisibility. You can play elf. You can play all kinds of stuff. Dwarf, human. You can even play a ghoul or a vampire or a centaur. I mean, there's so much variety in this game. Although I will say, you can turn into a vampire or a ghoul. And it's interesting because it gives you the option of both starting as a ghoul or vampire, or, being transformed as taking a wound or taking a bite from one of these creatures. So that's not in the core book. That is in the poison pages, but as an example, there is a ton of variety for this game. 19 ancestries and counting. Now, when you hit level 1, you're going to get your novice path. And your novice path is basically the quad of core classes. You have your magician, you have your priest, you have your rogue, and you have your warrior. Pretty much the foundation of all classes in tabletop games, fantasy, whatever you're going to play. That's basically the foundation. So at level 1, you'll choose that, and then in levels, level 2, level 3, up to level 10, you'll get bonuses. Not every level, but periodically you will get bonus for magician, priest, rogue, or warrior. So you choose one of those. Then when you become a level 3 or a group level 3 character, because in Shadow of the Demon Lord there really is no individual levels, it's all based on your group level. Because you work together as a group, and this game encourages that and emphasizes that. And it explains everything in this core rule book. And like I said, at level 1 you become the novice, you choose one of your 4 main paths, and then at level 3 you become an expert. Well, when you become an expert, there are 29 different expert paths. And those 29 expert paths come from one of the 4 core paths that you chose, whether magician, priest, rogue, or warrior. But here's the awesome thing about Shadow of the Demon Lord. You don't have to play. If you chose warrior at level 1 for your novice, you don't have to choose something in warrior at level 3. If you want to become like a sword mage or something, or choose, a mage type of expert path, or if you want to become like a battle cleric, choose something from one of the priest expert paths. So it's sort of like multi-classing, and there's no restrictions. You can choose anything. Just beware, there may be some minimum requirements, but it's like multi-classing already. It's great. And then, the same thing as the novice pass. There's 29 expert paths to choose from. And that's not just in the core book. That's in everything combined, guys. That's in everything. Because I'm trying to do a review on the, in the entire game. And I'm going to do a digital portion of the review after I talk about the game. And I'm going to show you examples of the different products that you can get from Mr. Schwab here in Shadow of the Demon Lord. So I'm going to show you guys some stuff, but I'm just talking about the mechanics right now. So once you choose one of the 29 and growing expert paths at level 3, you'll get stuff all the way up to level 10. Then at level 7, you get to choose a master path. And your master path, check this out, guys. There are 94 master paths to choose from. Basically, half of those are going to be warrior/rogue master paths, and the other half of that 94 are going to be magician/priest type of master paths. That's a lot of variety, especially for a game that's only maybe a year old. That is incredible, the amount of effort that has been put into the class customization system in this game. It's amazing. Hats off. I mean, really, it's good job. Now, another cool mechanic about this game are the monsters. The monsters, they're very methodically planned out. They have a great way of, like a challenge system. It teaches you how to create monsters, the book does. There are some pretty unique mechanics involving the monsters, like frightening and horrifying, which can give you insanity just for seeing the creature, which is pretty cool. There's 20 plus mechanics, so if you roll a 20 plus, this could happen, or X could happen, or Y could happen. So there's a lot of cool 20 plus mechanics as well. And that's pretty much everything that I can think of. Besides everything just being so super fast to play, guys. The only thing, I will say this, the only thing that my players did not like about this game, and like I said a couple minutes ago, my players like the Boons and Banes in this game better than Advantage and Disadvantage in 5e. So you could house rule that. If you're going to play 5e, you could house rule it. I mean, you could do anything you want to. It's your game. But the thing that my players did not like was the combat round. They're all used to initiative. I personally like the combat round, how it's broken up into fast round, slow round, and end of turn. But they like rolling initiative better. So we did house rule a D20, for initiative. So you could do that, or you could just stay to the core rules of the game, which I highly recommend, and just stay with the fast, slow, and end of turn, because really it is fast. It's just maybe some players just don't like change, and I think that could be the case with my Shadow of the Demon Lord game. I just don't think they like the change. So, but overall, guys, I mean, it's a really good game. It is definitely influenced with the ease of play, like a D&D 5e would present. The skill check system still goes off of the the core stats, and you just kind of make stuff up with your backstory. It's really good. It puts a lot of creation into your Ancestry as well, a lot of rollable tables. And I'll show all you guys that stuff in just a second when I move over to the digital portion of the review. But other than that, guys, Shadow of the Demon Lord, I highly recommend it. I've been playing it for a couple of months now, and like I said, I'm trying to do this in a very biased review, and I'm pretty picky with games. There's a lot of games out there that I just would not recommend, and because of the way the mechanic system is, or maybe something is overthought. And and I will say that about Shadow of the Demon Lord. There's a couple things that I think that Schwab kind of overthought, but it pertains to the lore of. We'll take, for example, the Pixie. The Pixie has invisibility at just about any time of the day, except for an hour here, or a couple hours there, or an hour here. And I just think that mechanic may be overthought a little bit because of the lore that he was trying to keep it to. I would probably like to have seen something more in the line of maybe invisible a couple of times a day at this amount of time. But that's just my opinion, and that's just a small little nitpick from me. Because I'm trying to, like I said, I'm coming from a consumer standpoint as well, and I think I'm not the only person that would probably say that about having a bunch of different rules inside one thing, because he's trying to preach a very rule light game, which it is, but some things just make me kind of go, I think he overthought a little bit. My players are trying to say that the combat round is kind of overthought a little bit as well, with the fast turn, the slow turn, and then the end of turn. So I think those are a couple things coming from players, views. I think possibly, maybe, but overall, I've enjoyed the game. My players have enjoyed the game. My viewers have enjoyed watching Shadow of the Demon Lord. And it's I definitely recommend it. And like I said, it's the book is $49.95, 272 pages. Not too bad for a. It's not the size of like a Numenera core book, or a Strange book, or a Cipher System book, where they're on the upper range of 500 pages for the core book. I think this book was going to be that large, and then he kind of backed it down because I think he wanted to do his poison pages and whatnot, which we'll talk about in just a second. But the overall quality of the book, everybody, I mean, is beautiful. This book reminds me of the Dragon Age game that I have, and here's the Lands of Rule on Earth. Very nice. I mean, the detail is great with the world. I mean, it's really good. Stuff on the gods. There's marvels of engineering. There's gunpowder in the game. There's guns. There's all kinds of good stuff. So here's the creatures, the way the stat blocks are on the creatures. Very well organized, as you can see. Very nicely done. Lots of beautiful art. I mean, there's so much art in this book. It's a good thing. So, but there you go. The quality of the pages are really nicely done. Sort of like a parchment type of feel. And I'll kind of thumb through, and you guys can see that there's quite a bit of art. And you guys can see a lot of tables, too. Lots of tables. So here's the master paths that are just in the core book, which is crazy. Really nice. But there you go, guys. I'm going to switch over to the PDF really quick, and we're going to take a look at that so everything will be much clearer. Alright, guys and gals, here is the PDF of Shadow of the Demon Lord. And it is a very organized PDF. It has quite a few chapters. Everything is broken into character creation, Chapter 1, playing the game, Chapter 2, novice paths for Chapter 3, expert paths, Chapter 4, Chapter 5 is master paths, Chapter 6 is all of the equipment, Chapter 7 is the magic and magic mechanics, rules, and spells. Chapter 8 is the actual gazetteer called A Land and Shadow, and it breaks all of the regions up and talks about all of the different regions. Chapter 9 is running the game, and then Chapter 10 is the bestiary and the other tools that you would need, treasure, creating monsters and stuff. So, really impressed with it. I mean, the first time that I started reading through it, I could probably tell in a couple hours that it was actually pretty good. I picked it up at my local game store. It was I think I paid $44.95 for it, so it was like $5 cheaper than retail price. So there you go. Here's the human, and here's what I'm talking about by Robert loves tables, and he's an old school gamer, so I love tables too. So when I created all of these tables in Fantasy Grounds, it was quite a task. There's a dwarf, the clockwork, the goblin. I mean, you can even play a goblin. You can play an orc. Pretty cool. And then here's all the different professions you can roll from you roll for your profession, common professions, or just professionals, kind of jobs: academic, criminal, martial, wilderness, religious, wealth, all kinds of interesting things table. This is another thing that was kind of taken from 5th edition with their D100 interesting thing. Well, he's done 6 tables, and then in subsequent companions and other books, there are more interesting things table that are themed on that book as well. So if it's the Hell book, then there's interesting things from Hell, or Terrible Beauty, which deals with the Fae. Then there's an interesting things table for creatures of the Fae. So really cool. Nice section on role playing. A lot of books kind of bypass role playing, which I don't understand it, because it's an RPG, a role playing game. So I wish more books would talk more about role playing and how to role play, and as a dungeon master, how to encourage your players to role play more. And this book really touches nicely on it. Another book that was good like that was the Dragon Age all-in-one book. That was pretty good too. I think the same company probably made this book. Here's the insanity stuff. Insanity chart. Your corruption, marks of darkness. You see tons of art. I mean, just tons of art, tons of tables. Really good. Here's all the afflictions in the game. Not too many. It's not like there's 5 pages and 3.5 or anything. No page of attacks of opportunity. Just a plain attack in this game. as you can see, there's all kinds of stuff. Here's the novice paths. This is how they're kind of broken up. We'll take the priest, for example. You get, increased 2 attributes by 1. You'll get 4 health. You'll get a power. Power, influences the amount of spells that you have. Then it talks about languages and professions, magic that you get, shared recovery skill. Basically, this is like all of the other classes or archetypes that you would, choose in other games, but this has much more diversity within the priest or within the magician or the warrior or the rogue. So there's quite a bit going on here. And then you get stuff at 2, at level 5, at level 8, and then here's the rogue. So you get quite a bit of stuff. Here's the expert paths, and here's 16 that are in the core book. And like I said, there's a total of 29, but 16 are here in the core book. And take for instance, like I said, the Paths of Fate for the priest. You don't have to go the Paths of Fate route, being a cleric, druid, oracle, or paladin. If you want, like I said, you can go Paths of War for, and take something from the warrior, either berserker, fighter, ranger, spellbinder. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff. I mean, you can go fighter, mage. You can go all kinds of stuff. There's no restrictions. There's just no restrictions. That's the great thing about it. And here's the. We'll take for instance, here's the assassin. Here's a table on story development, where you could choose one, make your own up, or whatever. How you became an assassin. And then here, here's how you get your more health, more perception, increase 2 attributes by 2, languages and professions. You got assassinate skill, disguise, expertise, and quick reflexes. Then you'll get more stuff at level 6 and at level 9 as well. So each one of these novice paths or expert paths have pretty much like a whole page of stuff, which is really nice. Here's the master paths at level 7. You get these, and like I said, holy cow, you get a ton. There's a ton for paths of magic, which are between the magician and the priest. Here's the paths of skill between the rogue and the warrior. There's like a gunslinger, there's a healer, there's a gladiator, there's a jack of all trades, a zealot, a diviner, a bard, astromancer, apocalyptist, aeromancer, champion, chaplain, defender, dervish. I mean, it just goes on. There's 94 of these master paths. I mean, it's just crazy. And take for instance, here is the bard, for example. A little bit of information about the bard, and here's what you get at level 7. More attributes, more health, more power, languages and professions, magic, and then the esoteric knowledge. And then you get more stuff at level 10. So there you go. Ooh, even boobies. You get boobies. Tons and tons, though, guys. Equipment. Quite a nice equipment section, everything. There's finesse in this game. And actually, staffs are finesse in this game. Quite interesting. I like that. Here's the magic, all of the fields of magic. And plus, there are quite a few more fields of magic since the game has came out. And, that's one negative thing about the game that I'll kind of touch on here in just a second after we're done looking at the core book. Kind of looks like Scorpion from Mortal Kombat, doesn't it? That's what I thought it kind of was. And then it breaks all the spells up by utilities, or if they're whatever level they are. So attacks or utilities, basically. Lots of different fields of magic, from fire to enchantment to earth to divination to destruction. And there's a lot of others that are in the poison pages and other supplements as well. Life, primal, protection, rune, shadow, song, storm, technomancy, teleportation, theurgy, time, transformation. The list just goes on and on. And then here's the gazetteer, or a land in shadow. Talks about the world, all the different areas of the world, and talks about the Northern Reach, which is basically their main hub. And the area of the world that is the least affected by the shadow of the Demon Lord, but it is encroaching in that territory at quite a expeditious rate. Some lore on the gods, and then there's a new book that just came out, and it has a lot of information on the gods as well. I just bought one and got it in the mail, and the post office literally rolled up the cardboard box and stuck it in my mailbox. It's called Uncertain Faith. So I get to go to the post office tomorrow and show them the book that they ruined, that they're going to buy me a new one. So if you work for the post office, tighten up over there, will you? You only lost $5.5 billion last year. So that's for another video, though. More and more stuff, man. Look at all these tables, guys. Mutations, all kinds of good stuff. Optional insanity stuff. All kinds of treasure. Here's all kinds of enchanted. There's really no such thing as a +1 magic item or a +2. The game actually prefers you just roll these enchants on one of the many enchanted tables. So there's 5 or 6 of them in the core book, and in every other supplement that comes out there is another one of these D20s, and it's really nice. I mean, there's skills like you can use an action to create 1 gallon of pure clean water, and the object has 1 use. Or you can create an item that you move at full speed across difficult terrain. You could set it all at 1 use items, sort of like the cipher system does with ciphers. Just depends on what you want to do. Here's all kinds of relics. Here's the bestiary, like I was talking about. It explains everything on the template. I like that. It explains frightening and horrifying. Here's the difficulty. What tier players are. And then here's the creatures, anywhere from a difficulty of 1 being super easy up to level 500 difficulty, which is pretty crazy. So there you go. A great mix of monsters. There's a Minotaur. I like how they have a lot of demons and devils in here too. So because the game does revolve around devils and demons. So and the great thing about this game is it gives you templates like constructs, for example. It gives you templates for huge constructs, large, medium, and small. And you would use all of the numbers within this, the damage, the attack, whatever, but then you would kind of just throw in your own features to spice it up, you know what I mean? And the same thing goes for demons. Here's a huge demon template, large demon, medium demon, a ton of demonic talents that you can add in randomly by rolling, or you can just place them in as you want. And then it goes down to a tiny demon, and it does the same for dragons, for monsters, and stuff like that. So, and then there's a lot of your your basic stuff like giants and goblins and golems and gorgons and hags and vampires, and the tier thief is pretty cool. He goes around stealing eyes. I like that. A lot of gore in this game, and that's one cool thing that I do like. And therefore, it fits the theme of a dark, gritty horror fantasy, sort of like Diablo 2. So, ogres, oozes, and you can create your own ooze and stuff. Orcs, poltergeists. There's a lot of construct stuff in this game too. Like I said, there's gunpowder, black powder, and there's all kinds of NPCs. Look at that, great. A cultist holding up an infant, fixing to sacrifice it probably to the new god. Awesome stuff, man. Good stuff. Not afraid to take chances. I like risque. And there you go. There's all the creatures by difficult levels. So this is the core book. This is the one of the character sheets. I'm not a big fan of that character sheet, but there are some pretty good fan-made character sheets out there. So let's take a look at the spell cards next, shall we? So here is what the actual spell cards look like. They're actually really nice. Kind of reminds me of the cipher cards from the cipher system or Numenera of the Strange. Maybe the 4th edition cards that the classes have, or maybe even the 5e spell cards. So each one of these, like this is the fire spell line. This is the symbol for the fire card. And then it has all of the spells in order of utility or attack. So has all of the mechanics. Some there's more text than others, as you can see, but that's like on every card because they all have to be the same size. And there's Fire Blast, there's Meteor, Flame Ward, and there's quite a few of these cards. You know, and there's actual physical cards that you can purchase as well. So these are what the spell cards look like. Now let's take a look at one of the poison pages. Alright everybody, here is one of the poison pages, and this one is called Fever Dreams. And the poison pages are basically like additions onto the rules. And these are usually just a few pages. They're no more than anywhere between 3 to 6 pages. And this Fever Dreams is basically just diseases, and I love the way that the diseases are done in this game. They're very organized. The different stages, how to recovery, and how to recover from these things. And here's cures for it. And this is the blood lung. And there's a lot of great diseases in here that can actually be deadly. I mean, this is the Shadow of the Demon Lord. So, plague, sickness, disease is spreading rampant throughout the entire world, and these are some of the diseases. But I feel stuff like this probably should have been added into the core book. I mean, it just seems like this would be part of the game master's toolkits. So here's the liquid shits if you want to give your players a very vile disease. The liquid shits cause severe abdominal cramping, vomiting, and to no surprise, diarrhea. Unlike other diseases, the liquid shits strike fast, often to embarrassing effect, and leaves its victims debilitated until it runs its course. So it's really cool. It talks about how you transmit it, how it's cured, the different stages of the liquid shits, how to recover from the liquid shits, and here are any kind of residual effects that you would have from the liquid shit. So, like I said, the diseases are seriously organized. I like them. It kind of reminds me of 4th edition diseases and stuff. Actually, it's almost to the T. So there's actually quite a few, and this is a 5-page PDF. So there's all kinds of other poison pages. There's one on the Centaur race. Probably could have been added in the core book, but Fever Dreams, guys, this is what they look like, the poison pages, and I'll be back in just a second with one of the main supplements. Alright, so here's the Demon Lord's Companion, and this is a larger book. This is one of the actual printed companions. There's a couple of printed companions. There's the Demon Lord's Companion is printed. Let's see, Exquisite Agony is printed. It's about hell. Then there is Terrible Beauty, which is about the Fae. It is also that is printed. Then there's the new Uncertain Faith. That's about the religions and whatnot. That is actually printed. Then there are a couple of other books that are on the Desolation. That are also printed. I believe the Tombs of Desolation is printed. The Tales of Desolation, which is an adventure book, 4 adventures in that book, that's printed. Then Tales of the Demon Lord, which I believe were all the Kickstarter rewards. The adventures done by like Monty Cook and Chris Pramis and stuff. I believe that was a 10 or 11 adventure book that was also printed. So there is some stuff that's printed, but the cards are also printed or available in PDF. But there's just so many of the card sets. There's really no large all-in-one set. It's just really, it's just I think it's unorganized from a consumer standpoint. It's just hard to find everything. And of course the adventures and stuff, those are about 3. The little mini adventures, there's a couple of dozen of those, and they're also anywhere between 3 and 5 pages. So there's quite a bit of content out. Now here's the Demon Lord's Companion. It has the same setup as the core book. So there's more ancestries in this. The fawn. Here's the fawn, and they're all different halfling, Then there's more paths of war. There's 2 more paths of war for all of the core mage, rogue, warrior, and priest. There's more master paths. There's expert paths. More monsters, more equipment, alchemical items and stuff. A lot of unique forbidden items. I like this, the Revenant head. It's actually pretty cool. I'm fixing to give that out to one of my groups. It'll definitely encourage some roleplay. This has a lot more potions in it. Talks about the vehicles, the mechanics for vehicles and chases and whatnot, and a bunch of base stats for some machines as well. More magic. This adds a couple more spell lines. I believe the Death and Demonology, and then it adds a bunch of spells to the spell lines that are in the core book. Here's an added-on bestiary with more creatures. And so this is a 51-page PDF, which is pretty nice size. So let's take a look at one of the adventure PDFs real quick. Alright, so here we go. This is the Dark Deeds and Last Hope adventure. This is an adventure for starting characters or level 0 characters. And this is one of the larger PDFs. And this has, all of the little bit of town creation for Last Hope. You can see here at the very last page. You can kind of print this out and draw where, have the players. It encourages you to have the players create the map and create the buildings and stuff. And it's pretty nice. I do like that. Here's some replacement characters with different roles that you could do. Here's a couple of handouts, clues for the adventure. I really like that kind of imagery for the players. Now, the adventure itself is straightforward. It has your core buildings in the town and some other happenings going on. I'm not going to go and spoil the adventure. My players are going through this right now, so but it has everything. Everything is nicely organized. It does lack a lot of maps, so if you're one for wanting battle maps and combat maps, a lot of these you'll have to create your own. And sometimes the maps that are on the PDFs sometimes are not of the best quality, so I've had to remake a couple of them, especially for a virtual tabletop game. They just really don't line up, so I've had to remake a couple of the maps, which is no big deal. But this is what one of the adventures looks like. This is actually one of the larger ones. This is like 15 pages. So, but there you go, guys. That's Shadow of the Demon Lord. Now, in closing, from a consumer standpoint, I think Shadow of the Demon Lord, for a $49.95 value for a core book, is a good deal. But I would have liked to seen the book a little bit bigger, because you can get, for $49.95, you can get the Cipher System or Numenera for the same price, and it's like 220 pages more. But like I said, this is coming from a consumer standpoint, and you can get a Savage Worlds core book for only $10, and it's like, but it's like 180 pages. But I like the mechanics of the game. I like the dark, gritty horror fantasy approach. I like the ease of play. I like how it is familiar to 5e. I do like using just the D20s. I do like using just the D6s. I like all of the rollable tables. I like the low numbers that the game has. I love the Boons and Banes. I love that. I love the character customization. I love the corruption. I love the insanity. I think the combat round could probably be a little bit different. The monster mechanics are great. And the marketing, I think, could have done things a little bit differently. I think all these little small PDFs coming out every week, from a consumer standpoint, I just don't want to buy stuff every week. I don't mind buying big books for a a $30, $40 price point. I don't mind buying that because you can keep a lot more information organized in a book. I don't know if down the line he's going to put all these 20 adventures in a book. I don't know if he's going to put all these poison pages into a book. I don't know what's going to go on because the game is still fairly brand new. So, and I don't know if he's going to make. I haven't even started to buy the cards yet because every week there's more spells coming out, and that's just more spell cards to try to track down and find. So. I'll kind of wait on the spell cards. I'd like to see something in a big bulk pack instead of just buying this set for $5, this set for $3, stuff like that. So, but overall, the game's good. I wish I would have kickstarted it, but like I said at the beginning of the video, I was kickstarting multiple things already. So, but there you go, guys. Shadow the Demon Lord. It's a great game. It's new player friendly. Check it out. Buy it. It's good. Sorry this review kind of lasted a little bit longer. It's probably one of my longest reviews. So leave a comment down below. What do you guys think of Shadow the Demon Lord? Do you guys like it? Do you dislike it? Do I bring up any valid points on the mechanics? On the merchandising aspect of the game? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments section down below. So until next time, guys, happy gaming, and keep rolling those crits, will ya?